Hello and good day, everyone. If you've been following our channel, you notice we went on a break. That was due to us handling some projects and which was taking so much of my time. All right. So far the project has taken shape, and then I can maybe dedicate an hour, 2 hours, 3 times within a week to make some videos or some contents for you. In today's video, we're going to be looking at flex and flex properties. So we're looking at flexbox and flex properties. Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout and is a very important tool to know in CSS in general. It helps you lay out your contents in a one-dimensional horizontal or one-dimensional column layout. So we're going to look at some basic properties in flexbox, and to that I'm going to create a div uh, content. So let's go. Okay, so here I've created uh, three div boxes in a div container. So first I have this div container, and in this div container will be these three different boxes. Now if you refresh this page, you will notice I have these. So first I'm going to set my display to flex, and by doing this it takes this away from this column alignment to a horizontal alignment. So I have this. Now also notice that it skips to obey these commands of the individual minimum height set for the boxes. Now next I'm going to do is a justify content. Center. Now if I justify content to center, I expect this to move this content, which is my flex element, my flex container, to the center of the page. Now such that when I do this, it keeps it to the center of the page. All right, so now another one is the space between. So when I justify content, say space between, now, and I refresh, so you see it keeps an even amount of space between these elements. So between these div containers, an even amount of space is what built in between them. Now if I want to put the space, the even amount of space outside, I'm going to use the space around, and then when I set space around, it gives me uh, a more even amount of space outside the boxes. So while I maintain the space in between it, it gives me some space all around it. Now, so the next element the next property we're going to talk about is uh, the flex start. In most cases, so it takes this back to the original form where we started. So when we started, this was the original form, so it takes this back to the original form. Now remember, if I had justify content center, it takes this to the center, and if I want to revert back to the original form, I'll have to use flex start, and then when I refresh, it takes exactly back to the original form. Now the next we're going to use is alignment. So the align items and align content. The align items are mostly used, I mostly use the align items, and align items are mostly used to work on the vertical approach. So I could have align items, and I say center. If I say align items to the center, now notice how these items are now being aligned. Okay, so let me keep my these to justify items to the center also. So all right, now okay, So next, property is a align item to flex start. So when I align item to flex start, and this takes me back to this environment. So this is the top of my the top of my my container, and this is the bottom of my container. The starts the top of my container and the bottom of my container. Now remember that initially I set these to what, 100 pixel, 200 pixels, and then 300 pixels height. The height here is 100 pixel, this is 200 pixels and 300 pixels height. Now because of this, if I set this align item to flex start, it takes this and rearranges them to the original form of this. Now if I change that to flex end and then refresh, so notice that it inverts that positioning. So I would like you to take note of this: flex start and flex end. Okay, then next one we're going to look at is the align content. So as I don't use align items, I want to use align content. Now align content, I can set the align content to center, and what that does is it stretches this back and then aligns them all to the center. So when I set this to flex start, there are not much significant changes noticed. Takes this back to the original form. So I mostly don't use this align content most of the time. The most tool here I use is the align items, which allows me to work on the individual boxes. So that is it. Okay, now another tool we're going to talk about, another property I'm going to talk about is a flex direction. So I'm looking at this, I can set my flex direction to column. Now setting my flex direction to column will override the initial display flex. This now overrides this command. Now remember from introduction we say CSS means cascading style sheet. Cascade means an order and a strata, an order from a higher point to a lower point. Now I have a new law here that says flex direction, display this, direct this to this, place this in a column format, and I have another one that says place this in a normal flex layout, a horizontal layout. Then this one now, this new command will now have to override the existing command which says placing a horizontal layout. So now I have my my values here in so if I take this align items to flex start, now it takes me to the original position where I was when we started. So it takes the items to the right, and if I say take to flex end, it takes it to the other side of the page. Now it takes looks at this. This is a column start, the column, the first column beginning part, the column ending part, and the column center in between. So it divides this page into three columns. first and in between and then the right. So I have pushed this to the right now, and I pushed it to the left when I put a flex start on it. Now, so having done flex direction to column, I'll change my justify content to center, and then that will align this inside this, aligns this within the space of this element, within that space of the right. It aligns it to the center of that space of the right, and it doesn't align it, it doesn't bring it to the center of the page. Justifying content here aligns this in. Now this exists in another space, which is the column space. Then the center of the column space is what it occupies. So that is what justify content here is telling it to do. Why this here tells it to move to the center of the page and take the middle spot, take the middle spot of the space in the center of the space. Take the middle spot of the space at the right column. If I put here to the flex end. So that being said, then we've seen how to use how many elements, how many properties. We've seen the justify content and align items, then align content. We also seen the flex direction. So I'm going to set a height here of 600 pixels. All right, so it places a height of 600 pixels over it, and then now I'm going to work on this individual elements. So I come to item 1. I'm going to talk about the next property on our list, which is the flex shrink and flex grow properties. We've talked about justify content, align items, align content. We've talked about flex direction. So we'll now talk about the flex shrink and flex grow property. So now I have these 3 items. So I'd like to take this away. So there, okay, good. Now, so I have these 3 properties, and I'm going to put a flex shrink of 0 to the first property. So when I put that flex shrink of 0 to the first property, it, no matter what happens, it maintains its size. So no matter how large the page grows or how small it does go, other properties will shrink, but this property will maintain its size. So if I have to put a flex shrink of 0 on the 3 properties, so you guess right what will happen. Then by default, nothing is going to happen to the individual boxes, because they are not going to be able to shrink. So they'll maintain their sizes, and then throughout the growth and shrinking of the page, so they'll maintain their sizes, because the flex shrink is set there to 0. Now when I set the flex grow to the third page, the third box, and I say flex grow, and I set that to 1. So what I'm saying is that as this page increases, the third box grows to cover the amount of spaces left around it. So if I shrink it, it grows to cover the amount of spaces left around it. Why these two do not shrink? So this one becomes a sacrificial lamb. It shrinks to cover the number of spaces beyond around it. Why he now goes to take care of the number of spaces being within left around it. Therefore, I see that the total width of this page is being what? Exhausted. Okay, now if I set a flex growth here to 2, so what it does is that to this one grows also, but it takes the remaining space around this and then divides it into 2. So okay, let's do that. So it takes the space around whatever space is left, so it divides it into 2, and to this one it gives 2 units, to this one it gives 1 unit. So if I keep going, it grows and divides this into 2. Now be careful not to conclude that this shape here is twice the width of this shape. No, it is not twice the width of this shape. However, it takes the remaining space and divides it into 2. But if I want to get an actual measurement of twice the width of this shape, so what I'm going to do is that I have to introduce something called flex basis. So if I put a flex basis on the 3 of them, if I put a flex basis of 0 on the 3 boxes, now what it says that we are going to start from an initial position of 0, ignoring the 100, 200, 300 pixels setting. So we are going to start an initial position of 0 and divide the space evenly amongst you. So an initial position of 0, so this has a no growth on it, so this takes twice, and this takes 1 the ratio. So at this point, this measurement is exactly half of this, as this is twice the size of this. So if I put this flex grow to 3, so what it does is that this will take this will be 3 times the size of this, and this will be 2 times the size of this. So go, so twice of this is this, and thrice of this is this. So this is item 1 is 3 times the width of item 2, and item 2 is twice the width of item 3. So that's because I have a flex basis of 0, I say start from initial position of 0 and then increase to take up these spaces. So now, still working on the individual element, I can now think of align self. I can now say align self to end. So I'm doing that on 1, so it takes 1 and then it throws it to the end of the page space. Then to 3, to item 3, I'm going to say align self to start. So it takes item 3 and takes it over to occupy the start position of the flex container. So remember, we are occupying the flex container from this point to over this point. So why this it throws to the end, and this it throws to the start position of the flex container. So to this, I'm going to say align flex, align self to center, and when I refresh, so I get it actually at the center. So I can also do that here to bring it back to the center. So it comes to the center and then takes the same position as. Okay. Alright, so that's all for today, and I think in summary you've been able to see that we've looked at several properties. We've looked at the justify content property in flexbox, aligned items properties, align content properties, flex grow properties, the flex shrink properties, and the flex basis properties. We also looked at the align self properties, and that is basically all you need to know about flexbox, and this is dynamic usage. With all these properties we've discussed here today, you can build dynamic flexboxes to serve and to display whatever content you have created, and that is very unique and very awesome. So thank you. Please like and subscribe to this channel to get more contents like this as we look up to the next video, which will be coming anytime from now, and that will be on grid properties. Thank you very much. Bye.